To get started with this super cute ruffled halter top, we're going to go ahead and grab 2 pieces of material. You want to make sure that the print on the material is appropriate for the size of the doll, and Poppy Parker is pretty tiny. You want to also consider the weight of the material, and in this case I'd recommend you use something really light. I am using cotton, which will work, but if you have a really light cotton versus a medium weight cotton, that would be more appropriate. You're going to grab those 3 pattern pieces, we're going to lay it on our fabric, and we're going to go ahead and get it cut out. You can cut the lining and the main fabric out separately, or in this case, I'm just going to place them together and make the fold so that I can place the back piece of the top on the fold line. I'm also going to take the ruffle and fold it in half just so I can get everything together very easily on this piece of fabric. I'm going to pin it in place and get it cut out. The darts on this top are super easy because you don't even have to mark them. What you do want to do is just sew a straight line right along the edge, and you want to use a really small stitch because this is a really small garment and we are going to be turning it. I recommend that you don't backstitch on the darts, but you actually tie it off after you've sewn the seam. Once you have the darts sewn and you've tied them off, you want to go ahead and trim kind of close to that seam allowance, and that's just going to reduce the bulk in the overall garment. You're going to press all of the darts, and then once you have those done, you're going to grab the back sections of the bodice. You're going to place it right sides together at the shoulders and sew the shoulder seams, both on the outside of the garment as well as on the lining pieces. With the shoulder seams pressed open, we're going to grab our ruffle, we're going to fold it in half with wrong sides together and press it. With the ruffle pressed, we're going to go ahead and run a gather stitch along the raw edge. With the gather stitch in place, you're going to fold the ruffle in half to find the actual center back, and then you're going to find the center back of the top as well. I like to pin it together, and then I like to pull the ruffle to match the neckline. You want the end of the ruffle to line up with the edge of the front of the top. With the ruffle pinned to the neckline, we're just going to baste along the raw edge to hold the ruffle in place. Next, we'll grab the lining and pin it to the bodice right sides together. Once you have the lining pinned to the bodice, you're going to sew across the front, up and around the neck opening, and across the other front side. You're also going to sew around the armhole edges as well as across the back. One thing you do want to keep in mind is that ruffle should be at least 1/4 of an inch from the actual raw edge of the sleeve. And as you can see here, it is, so you should have no problem clearing it with that seam allowance. It is also helpful to trim down the seam allowance of the shoulder. It just makes it a little bit easier when you're going to turn the garment, because we are going to take it through that shoulder space when we're turning it right side out. For the last seam, we're just going to run across that lower back. Once we have all of those seams sewn, we're just going to check both sides really carefully before we clip in towards the seam allowance. If everything looks to be good, we're going to clip in towards the rounded edge, as well as trim down that seam allowance all the way around, and then we'll get the garment turned right side out. My preferred tool for turning something this small right side out lately has been this giant bobby pin. It's super helpful because it's very rounded on the edge, so I don't push through any of the seams. Again, I did use a much smaller stitch length on this garment because I knew I would be turning it and it would be tight going through those shoulder channels. One thing you do want to remember is that both of the sides need to go out the same area. The key to turning something this small is just to take a little bit of time and patience so that you don't actually force it through. So I'm going to push the rounded edge in, and then I'm going to just grab along the seam allowance that I've used. Looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to grab that corner front, and I'm going to do the same thing, taking it out the same area. All right, so the turn was pretty successful. So let's get it all the way out, and then we'll press it open. Once you have the top turned right side out and pressed, you have two choices in how you're going to finish it. The easiest way is to take the top and place it right sides together at the side seams and give it a sew. If you'd like to have a little bit better finish on the inside, you have the option to turn the back opening under 1/4 of an inch, to slip the front opening in, and to hand finish through the lining and the front of the bodice to decrease the bulk at the sides, and that's the step I'm going to do now. We'll repeat that on the second side, and then we'll grab our needle and thread. So here's a quick fit to our doll, just to make sure we know where we want to put the placement of that snap. Here's a look at the back through the neckline and everything, and I think she looks really great. So all I'm going to do is grab one snap, attach it at the front, as well as add one decorative button, and then we'll get some final photographs of our doll. The ruffled halter top is complete, and I think Poppy looks fantastic. As always, I thank you guys for coming along with me. Please hit that like and subscribe button. If you'd be interested in seeing a tutorial for construction of the dress from the Hello Summer pattern, please list that in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.